Have you ever trusted someone, only to have them destroy your entire life with a single lie? Daniel Moore was a good man. The kind of man who worked hard, kept his head down, and treated people with respect. He wasn't rich. He didn't come from a powerful family. But he had something money couldn't buy: integrity. Daniel worked as a private driver for the Carter family in Aspen Ridge, Colorado, one of the wealthiest towns in America. Aspen Ridge wasn't just rich. It was old money rich. The kind of place where mansions had names, where private jets were parked like cars, and where your last name could open doors, or close them forever. Daniel didn't belong to that world. But he worked in it. Every morning, he put on his clean uniform, polished his shoes, and drove Howard Carter, a billionaire tech mogul, and his family wherever they needed to go. School runs. Business meetings. Country clubs. Daniel was always on time. Always professional. Always invisible. And he liked it that way. Because Daniel had his own life. His own dreams. A small apartment on the edge of town. A fiancée named Rachel who worked as a nurse at the local hospital. They weren't wealthy, but they were happy. They were planning a wedding. Saving for a house. Dreaming of kids one day, maybe a dog, a quiet life filled with love and laughter. Daniel didn't ask for much. He just wanted to do his job, marry the woman he loved, and live a simple, honest life. But in a town like Aspen Ridge, honesty doesn't always protect you. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The kind of day where the autumn sun poured through the windows of the Carter mansion like liquid gold. Daniel had just finished washing the cars and was in his small room at the back of the estate, a modest space the Carters allowed him to use during long shifts. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, scrolling through his phone, texting Rachel about dinner plans, when the door opened. He looked up. Lydia Carter stood in the doorway. 17 years old. Long blonde hair. Designer clothes. The only daughter of Howard Carter, and someone who had grown up believing the world existed to serve her. Daniel's stomach tightened. Something felt wrong. "Lydia," he said carefully, standing up. "Can I help you with something?" She smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was something else. Something that made Daniel's skin crawl. She stepped inside. Closed the door behind her. "I just wanted to talk," she said softly, moving closer. Daniel took a step back. "If you need a ride somewhere, I can get the car ready." "I don't need a ride, Daniel." She was standing too close now. Way too close. Daniel's heart was pounding. He could feel the danger in the air like static before a storm. "Lydia, this isn't appropriate. You need to leave. Now." But she didn't leave. She reached out, placed a hand on his chest. Daniel grabbed her wrist, gently but firmly, and moved it away. "Stop," he said, his voice shaking. "This is not okay. You need to go." For a moment, Lydia just stared at him. Her face flickered with something: surprise, maybe. Or anger. Daniel couldn't tell. And then, everything changed. Her expression twisted. Her eyes filled with tears that came too fast, too perfectly. She stepped back, stumbling slightly, and let out a sharp, breathless scream. "Get away from me," she shrieked. Daniel froze. "What? Lydia, what are you? Help! Somebody help me!" Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Doors slammed open. Within seconds, the room was flooded with people: security guards, housekeepers, and then, towering in the doorway like a storm cloud, Howard Carter himself. "What the hell is going on here?" Howard's voice was ice and fire all at once. Lydia ran to her father, sobbing into his chest. "Daddy, he tried to. I came in to ask him something and he grabbed me." "No," Daniel whispered, his entire world tilting. "No, that's not, Mr. Carter, I swear to God, that's not what happened." But Howard wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on Daniel with a hatred so pure it could burn. "Get him out of my house," Howard said quietly. "Call the police. Now." "Mr. Carter, please," Daniel's voice cracked. "She's lying. I didn't touch her. I would never." "Shut your mouth," Howard roared. "You think I'm going to believe you over my daughter?" Daniel felt hands grab him from behind. Security dragged him out of the room, down the hall, past the marble floors and crystal chandeliers, out onto the driveway where neighbors were already gathering, phones out, recording everything. The police arrived within minutes. Daniel was handcuffed in front of everyone. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Did you hear? The driver assaulted the Carter girl. I always knew there was something off about him. They let people like that into their homes?" Daniel couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But it was. The media tore him apart. By the next morning, Daniel's face was on every news channel, every website, every social media feed. Family driver accused of assaulting teen daughter of billionaire Howard Carter. They called him a predator. A monster. A criminal. No one asked for his side of the story. No one cared. Rachel stopped answering his calls. At first, Daniel told himself she was just scared. Confused. But deep down, he knew. The world had already made up its mind about him. And Rachel. Rachel was part of that world. When she finally came to see him in the county jail, Daniel's heart leapt with desperate hope. But the moment he saw her face, he knew. She sat across from him, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes red from crying. "I can't do this, Daniel," she whispered. "Rachel, please. You know me. You know I didn't do this. Everyone is saying." "I don't care what everyone is saying." His voice broke. "I care what you believe. Do you believe me?" Silence. Long, terrible silence. Rachel looked away. I don't know what to believe anymore." Those words shattered him worse than the handcuffs. Worse than the headlines. Worse than everything. "I'm sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I can't marry someone who what?" Daniel's voice was barely a whisper now. "Someone who's innocent? Someone who loves you." But Rachel was already standing. Already leaving. "Goodbye, Daniel." And just like that, she was gone. The trial was a nightmare. Howard Carter hired the best legal team money could buy, not to defend anyone, but to destroy Daniel. They painted him as a dangerous man who had manipulated his way into a position of trust. They brought in fake character witnesses. They twisted every word, every moment. Daniel's public defender tried. But what could he do against an army of lawyers paid millions to win? The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty. 20 years in prison. Daniel sat in the courtroom, numb, as the judge read the sentence. 20 years. 2 decades of his life. Gone. Stolen. For something he didn't do. His first night in prison, Daniel lay on a cold, narrow bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Rachel. About the life they'd planned. About the house they'd never buy. The kids they'd never have. He thought about Lydia Carter, sleeping peacefully in her mansion, while he rotted in a cage. And he thought about the truth, buried, ignored, forgotten. But then, in the silence of that cell, Daniel heard a voice in his memory. "I believe you." It was Nina. Rachel's best friend. She had visited him once before the trial, looked him in the eyes, and said those 3 words. "I believe you. And I'm going to prove it." At the time, Daniel had been too broken to hope. But now, in the darkness, her words were the only light he had left. Somewhere out there, someone believed him. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. 3 years. 3 long, agonizing years behind bars. For Daniel Moore, every single day felt like drowning. The same gray walls. The same cold floors. The same suffocating weight of injustice pressing down on his chest until he could barely breathe. Some nights, he would lie awake and ask himself, how much longer can I survive this? But every week, without fail, one person showed up. Nina. Rachel's best friend. The woman who had looked Daniel in the eyes on his darkest day and said, "I believe you." And she kept coming back. Every Tuesday afternoon, Nina would sit across from him in that cold, sterile visiting room, separated by scratched plexiglass and a phone that crackled with static. She never missed a visit. Not once. While the rest of the world had forgotten Daniel Moore, labeled him a monster, and moved on with their lives, Nina remembered. "How are you holding up?" she would ask, her voice soft but steady. Daniel would try to smile. "I'm still here. That's all that matters," she'd say. "Because I'm getting closer, Daniel. I promise you. I'm going to find the truth." At first, Daniel didn't believe her. How could he? The Carters had money, power, lawyers, and influence. What could one woman possibly do against all of that? But Nina wasn't just anyone. She was relentless. She had spent 3 years researching, investigating, asking questions that no one else dared to ask. She'd contacted lawyers, private investigators, journalists, anyone who might listen. But every door slammed shut. The Carter name was too powerful. Too untouchable. Until one day, Nina realized something. If she couldn't break through the walls from the outside, she'd have to get inside. It took Nina 2 months to get the job. 2 months of applications, background checks, and interviews. 2 months of pretending to be just another struggling woman looking for work. And finally, she got the call. "Congratulations, Miss Bennett. You've been hired as part of the housekeeping staff at the Carter estate." Nina hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long moment, her heart pounding. She was in. She was actually in. The next morning, Nina walked through the gates of the Carter mansion for the first time. The same gates that had swallowed Daniel whole 3 years ago. The same driveway where he'd been dragged away in handcuffs. Nina kept her head down, her expression neutral. She couldn't afford to draw attention. Couldn't afford to make a single mistake. She was given a uniform, a list of duties, a schedule. And she got to work. For the first few weeks, Nina did exactly what she was told. She cleaned. She scrubbed. She dusted. She made herself invisible, just another face in the background of the Carters' perfect, polished world. But while her hands were busy with mops and rags, her eyes were always searching. Security cameras. Office doors. Locked rooms. She memorized the layout of the mansion. Learned the routines of the staff. Figured out when Howard Carter was home, when he was traveling, when the house was quiet. And slowly, carefully, she began to dig. It was a Friday night, nearly 2 months into her job, when Nina finally found her chance. Howard Carter was away on business. Lydia was out at some party with friends. The mansion was nearly empty except for a few night staff. Nina's heart raced as she slipped down the hallway toward Howard's private office. She'd been watching this door for weeks. It was always locked. Always off limits. But tonight, one of the senior staff had left it open while grabbing cleaning supplies. Nina glanced over her shoulder. No one. She slipped inside and quietly closed the door behind her. The office was enormous. Dark wood. Leather chairs. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A massive desk sat in the center, covered with files and expensive tech. Nina's hands trembled as she moved toward the desk. She didn't have much time. She opened drawers. Checked filing cabinets. Searched through stacks of papers. Nothing. Her breath came faster. Panic started to creep in. What if there's nothing here? What if I'm wrong? But then she saw it. A laptop. Closed. Sitting on a side table near the window. Nina picked it up, opened it. The screen flickered to life. Password protected. Her heart sank. But then she noticed something else, a small external hard drive, tucked behind a stack of books on the shelf. Nina pulled it out, hands shaking, and plugged it into the laptop. The screen loaded. Folders. Dozens of folders. Labeled by date. And one of them was labeled, September 2022, security footage. Nina's breath caught in her throat. That was the month. The exact month Daniel's life had been destroyed. She clicked the folder. Video files. Dozens of them. Organized by camera location. Nina scrolled frantically until she found it. Staff quarters, September 24, 2022. She double-clicked. The video began to play. And there it was. Everything. Nina watched, tears streaming down her face, as the truth unfolded on the screen. The footage showed Lydia walking into Daniel's room. Smiling. Moving closer. Reaching out to touch him. And then Daniel, pulling away. Stepping back. Telling her to leave. Lydia's face twisting with anger. Her scream. The lie. It was all there. Every second. Every horrible, damning second. But that wasn't all. Nina kept watching. Kept scrolling through the files. And then she found another video. This one was from 2 days later. Inside this very office. Howard Carter sitting at his desk, watching the same footage Nina had just seen. He knew. He had known the entire time. Howard Carter had watched his daughter lie. Had seen the truth with his own eyes. And he had buried it. Deleted the footage from the main servers. Hidden the only copy on this hard drive. Paid off witnesses. Bribed officials. All to protect his reputation. His legacy. His precious family name. Nina felt rage boil in her chest like lava. She pulled out her phone and started copying the files. Suddenly, the door flew open. Nina spun around, her heart stopping. Lydia Carter stood in the doorway, dressed in a glittering cocktail dress, eyes wide with shock. What the hell are you doing in here? Nina's mind raced. She was trapped. Caught. But she didn't move. Didn't run. Instead, she held up her phone. I found it, Nina said quietly. I found everything. Lydia's face went pale. What are you talking about? The footage. The real footage. The one your father hid. The one that shows you lied about Daniel Moore. For a moment, Lydia said nothing. And then she laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think anyone will believe you? Lydia hissed. You're nobody. You're a maid. My father will destroy you just like he destroyed Daniel. Maybe, Nina said. Her voice was calm now. Steady. But I'm not the one you need to worry about. Lydia frowned. What? And then they both heard it. Sirens. Lydia's eyes widened in panic. What did you do? Nina allowed herself a small, cold smile. I called the police 20 minutes ago, she said. Before I even came into this room. I told them everything. Told them where to find the evidence. And I sent them copies of the files, just in case. Lydia's face crumpled. No. No, you. The front door of the mansion burst open. Footsteps echoed through the halls. Police. Nobody move. Lydia tried to run, but officers were already flooding the office. Nina stepped aside, still holding her phone, as they placed Lydia Carter in handcuffs. The next 72 hours were a blur. The footage went public. News outlets exploded. The story that had once destroyed Daniel Moore now destroyed the Carters. Howard Carter was arrested at the airport, trying to flee the country. Lydia was charged with filing a false report, perjury, and conspiracy. And Daniel Moore was released. After 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days behind bars, he walked out of that prison a free man. Nina was waiting for him at the gates. When he saw her, Daniel stopped. Just stood there, staring, as if he couldn't believe she was real. And then he walked toward her, tears streaming down his face, and pulled her into his arms. "You did it," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You actually did it." Nina held him tight. "I told you I would." The compensation came a few weeks later. $5 million. The state's apology for 3 stolen years. But no amount of money could give Daniel back what he'd lost. The time. The dreams. The life he'd planned with Rachel. Speaking of Rachel, she showed up at his door 2 months after his release. Daniel opened the door to find her standing there, looking older, tired, ashamed. "Daniel," she said softly. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have fought for you. I was wrong. And if you'll let me, I want to try again. I want us to." "No." The word was quiet. But final. Rachel blinked, tears filling her eyes. "What?" Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. "You left when I needed you most," he said gently. "You chose to believe the lie because it was easier than standing by me. I don't hate you, Rachel. But I can't be with someone who gave up on me. Daniel, please. I've already found the person I want to spend my life with," he said. "The person who never gave up. Who risked everything to save me." Rachel's face crumpled. But she nodded. And then, slowly, she turned and walked away. 6 months later, Daniel and Nina were married. It was a small ceremony. Just close friends. No cameras. No headlines. Just 2 people who had walked through hell and found each other on the other side. As they stood together, hand in hand, Daniel looked into Nina's eyes and whispered, "Thank you. For believing me." Nina smiled. "Thank you for holding on." And somewhere, far away, in separate prison cells, Lydia and Howard Carter sat in the darkness they had created. Because the truth, no matter how deeply buried, never stays silent forever. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that truth and loyalty still matter in this world, please like this video, share it, and subscribe. Because stories like this need to be told. And voices like Daniel's and Nina's need to be heard. Thank you for watching.